guerrilla style, a whole bunch of technical issues. So we don't need these phones. We don't need these microphones.
Off with your head. If it
Off with your head. Off. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, welcome to a guerrilla style version of the King and Me show. If y'all are watching, let us know that you can at least hear us. Our audio will not be that great, but at least we are in a quiet location, in a quiet room. Can you turn the volume up a bit?
Not on that phone because it's on D&D.
Had probably.
Yeah. It's gonna be what it is.
It's gonna be what it is.
Like we don't have a choice.
Yeah. Okay. The people don't need this technical issues that we can't control. We can't do anything about. We have gotten past last Monday of September. Hence, this is the first Monday of October. And what we do on the first month of October is showcase and have me attempt to guess what the picture was for Michelle's lovely calendar of things that we do. All right, so that's what we did October of 2024. Show me so I can see what it is. Oh, it was our anniversary month or anniversary day celebration.
Yeah. That
went to MGM, not MGM, but the
National
Harbor area.
Yeah.
That did not start off good.
It did not. We had some technical difficulties.
We had some glitches. some communication
errors, and then we learned a lot about each other. And I feel like that's what you're supposed to do in a relationship, right? You may have some technical difficulties, you may have some communication glitches, but kind of like what we had right now, the show must go on and you just keep going.
No doubt. So tonight we're talking about, would you move for love? Kind of like that old Bobby Cantrell song. What would you do? What won't you do?
Oh.
Do for love. No, see, look, it's the fact we don't have our microphones why I'm not sounding good.
That's what it is, baby.
That's exactly what it is.
You tried everything, but you don't need love.
Yeah, that part.
I pulled up the whole lyrics and everything.
You did.
I did. Like, had this whole show envisioned of how it was gonna go, and then, we pivot. So let's get on topic. Let's talk about what we're talking about today.
Right. So this topic came from the very adult things that can occur when you're in a relationship. Whether you're dating, whether you're married or unmarried, whether you've decided to take that commitment with somebody, sometimes you have to make decisions when it comes to where you're living and what's going on and all of those things. So we wanted to ask the question very specifically, because this can be a deal breaker. Would you move for love? Okay. So let me ask you this. Would you uproot your entire life, your career, your family, and comfort zone just to be with somebody that you love? Michelle, straight up question for you. For this relationship, for me, would you move for love?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you added the for me. I wouldn't do it for everyone, but I would do it for you. Yes.
Oh, well, don't ask me then.
OMG, King Smith, would you move for me for love?
It depends. We have to take it. It's not just an easy yes or no.
Why not?
Because I think you have to take into account all of the factors, like when you're moving, what's going on? Money makes the world go round. What's the income situation looking like? Can I be employed and find a way to earn income making that move with you? So the short answer is yes, but we need to figure out and plan and account for those things. We can't add stress of money and have that be a thing that causes the relationship to crumble. It's one of the things. Sex, intimacy, money, and communication are the three pillars that can erode a relationship.
Okay, Okay, so I hear that. I understand. It makes total sense for me. But for me, like this is me we're talking about. You wouldn't move for me?
I said it depends.
Oh my gosh.
It has to make sense. I could eventually get there, but if you're talking about, let's say, and this is not our actual numbers, but let's say combined we make 250,000, but I can't find that type of an income immediately, but given time I could, do we have enough in savings to be able to sustain that drop in income until it can be reproduced at that new location? If not, I would say, hey, accept the position, accept the job. It's a great opportunity for you. Give me time to find a place or a place that I could go to and get hired, and then I'll make the move with you. So then it becomes a question of, are we a couple that can live long distance until that happens? Would you turn down the position just because we don't have the savings to make a move together work?
But what if, okay, so in your example, we're making 250K combined. What if the move plus a job that you get would put us at like 225? Would that still be a no for you?
That could be sustainable. The numbers would still have to make sense.
I mean, if we're dink, so dual income, no kids, and the move cuts off about 25,000, doesn't, I mean, it doesn't impact a lot of things because maybe there are some other things. Maybe we're moving to a place with a lower cost of living,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have any real expenses, so it's cutting into our savings for a little bit. So that's basically 25K that we're losing, and we're losing the ability to build up our savings. How would you feel then?
If the numbers make sense, that type of a example, I don't have an issue with. It just, the numbers have to make sense. If the move happens, but yet we're in a steady red
Yeah, no.
because of, let's say, we still have debt that we're trying to pay off also in this, because this is a realistic thing. People, the average person, they are carrying debt. So let's say we're still carrying debt, but that 25K, while it also doesn't allow us to be able to save, we're still a little bit in the red, and not even by a lot, but still a little bit in the red. I would say, well, it don't make sense. And if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
All right. I do want to take a moment to shout out those who may be watching us. I see that we got a bunch of people in. We got Tarika, the greatest mod this side of the Pacific Ocean.
What up, T?
And we also have, let's see, she said, how we doing? We're doing well.
We're
All
doing
things
good.
considered. I'll explain that in a second. We also have your dad, Larry Smith, who popped in. He said, "Good, hello, y'all. Good to see y'all again. Great topic this evening. Moving for love. If it's a financial benefit, yes." And then we got a newcomer, Kiara Carter. I'm going to assume that's pronounced Kiara and not Cara. Kiara Carter is joining us, and she said, "Good evening" with a wave.
What's up, KC?
So we thank you so much for joining us. So we're having a little minor technical difficulty, so we can't see like on our screen. We can't see what you are saying, nor can we display your comments. And for right now, we're only streaming on YouTube. But hey, we still love y'all. We thank you so much for joining, and we'll take care of all the other stuff. But for now, thank you.
Yeah, so if this is your first time watching, come back next week when we've worked out all of the technical glitches.
And if this isn't your first time, then you know to come back next week. Thank you. All right, so moving for love. So yes, we can say that if it makes financial sense, then yes. I think when we look at, and I always go into gender wars, I feel like the person who is making less, let me not even make it about gender. I feel like the person who is making less will always say, sure, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the person who was making more, if the she was on the other foot, would say, okay, no, we need to run through some logistical things and kind of look at it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. As you should. That makes smart financial fiscal sense. Mm-hmm. It's not about love at that point. It's about, can we make this work financially?
Okay, that's fair. Paul Bennett, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. So we talked about that. Like, would you move for love? And I love how you just broke it down and said that at a point it comes to it's not being about love, but it being about, does this make financial sense? Can we financially sustain ourselves if we move? And that's the part where we kind of cross over to. I love that. And I feel like, so in the example that you gave, you said we were making 250K, and I added the caveat, what if the move put us at 225K, but also cut down our expenses a little bit? What about sacrifices? I feel like sometimes we kind of get to a point where sometimes you may have to sacrifice things. Is a sacrifice okay when it comes to love?
Look, let's stick on this because that word sacrifice has popped its rear head when it comes to relationship in light of what Aisha Curry said on the Call Her Daddy podcast.
All right, tell me more because I'm not familiar.
All right, so Aisha Curry was on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and I forget exactly what the question was, but her response to the question pretty much talked about everything that she sacrificed being the wife of an NBA superstar, and how she had goals and things that she wanted to do, but she got married young, had kids very early on, and that put her independent stuff on the back burner for her husband's career, who turns out to be an NBA superstar, Wardell Steph Curry the second.
Right.
The way she sounded and how other people interpreted what she said had her sound real insensitive and what's the right word? Just not reading the room when it comes to the millions of other people that would die to be her.
Okay. I mean, and I'm not 100% because I don't watch that show or know anything about it. But I will say this: when it comes to relationships, and I'm not going to speak for every single country, but at least here in the United States, you have a choice.
Say more about that.
You have a choice. We talk about feminism all the time, and someone very kindly, helped to set me straight that feminism basically meant that we women want to have a choice for the lifestyle that we choose. If we want to be stay-at-home moms, we have the right to be able to make that choice. If we want to be career women, we have a right to make that choice. If we want a combination of the two, then we have a right to make that choice. No one else should have to make that choice for us. So with that, I say when we hear in 2020 or whatever year the Currys got married, you had that choice. You had that choice to get married to Steph Curry. You had a choice, and I'm going to say this in a dignified manner. You had a choice to do the actions that would lead to pregnancy. You had a choice to not use any type of contraceptive that would prevent pregnancy. So when that baby came, there were several choices that were made up to that point. And I don't think it's fair that now that you're like 4 kids in, for you to say, oh, I never wanted to get married and, I didn't get to have the career that I wanted to have. You had a choice. You had a choice leading up to all of this. So why did you choose this? And now why are you choosing to make it sound like you had no say in the way that your life has turned out? You had every say in the way that your life turned out.
Mind if I get personal?
Go ahead.
I sounded like Aisha Curry at one point.
Ooh.
I did.
Go ahead and tell us more.
So, if you're new to this show, doggone it, I said it so.
Go, keep going.
All right, my bad. Call me out if I say that again, if I start out with a so. I got married when I was 20 years old. I divorced at 34. Marriage lasted 14 years. And while I was in, I had a choice. Right before I got married, I could have gone to the Air Force Academy prep school, which would have led to a commission in the Air Force, a free degree essentially, right? You're trading time for money, and a chance to play Division I football. And when my marriage was eroding, I got angry.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I went off on my ex-wife. did I go off? I tried to say that I called her ungrateful for the things that I did for her, and that I made choices and sacrifices for the sake of this family to choose to marry her instead of going to the Air Force Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it in such a manner as if she put the proverbial gun to my head and that I did not have a choice. But as a healed person now,
as a healed person,
as
I
a
love
healed
it.
person now, I realized that the error in my thinking, how bad it was, how bad the error in my thinking was, and that yeah, I made that choice to do it. She didn't ask me to marry her. She did not ask me to not go to the Air Force Academy, right? I was already in the service. There's things that for y'all veterans out there that watch this show, you know how it is. When you get orders to go wherever Big Daddy government tells you to go, you go. You don't have a choice in that manner. And when we did get married, that's what she knew that she was signing up for.
Okay.
Yet I thought that, I was making this whole point about, do you know the sacrifices that I made for you and this family? Like, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about my mindset now and just how wrong and bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand that now. And it's maybe Aisha Curry wakes up and realizes that while she thinks she's being open and honest about what she's going through, there's a way that you can convey it that makes it that you're more introspective about it versus just a big child. And it's giving I miss my whole phase and I'm not fully grateful for this nice cush life that I'm living now.
So here's my question. When did you realize that you were sounding like that?
Not in the moment for sure. Not even well afterwards. It took me going through therapy because it was one of the biggest things. A lot of my anger was misplaced blame on my ex-wife. I was like, I went through this thing of I was being manipulated. I was being, I made these choices for you. It felt like I was, but I could have said no.
I say that because I wonder, is there a difference between, and this may sound like I'm defending Aisha Curry, is there a difference between being upset and saying something and just stating a fact? And the reason why I say that is because when I just asked you, when did you move past that? You made it seem as though it was before you met me. However,
okay,
after meeting me, I did hear the story in that I could have gone to the Air Force Academy, but I couldn't because I got married. And if you're saying it depends on how a person receives it, how it's being conveyed. Because one could say, well, if he still has the ability to say that to me, then he's still hurt about it.
okay.
And one could also say, no, he's not hurt about it. He's just stating what's the fact.
Yeah, if it's only said and heard once, then you might be able to say that Aisha Curry has on multiple times conveyed things in a tone of not being appreciative of the life and things that she has.
All right, I like that. So we do have some comments in the building. So Paul Bennett asks, true or false? You can do anything, but you can't do everything. 1,000% correct. You can do anything, but not everything. Mm-hmm. And then Kiara Carter came in talking about what we're talking about now with pertaining to choices. She said, correct. You always have a choice, but was there a conversation prior to? So prior to any decisions being made about Aisha Curry, about you and your ex-wife, were there conversations prior to? If so, then it should have been an understanding.
Agreed. And being older allows me to be able to stand on that and really understand what that means. Mm-hmm. Taking into our life, we're going to be moving in together here in 2 months or so. And we had some things to really work out and come to an understanding about
I'm
what
an
that
angel,
meant.
So I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, what ever. Goodness gracious. So yeah, it's about having that conversation with the other person and having an understanding. Young people out there, this is specifically to y'all, and some of maybe the people that's our age or older that just don't get this yet. You should also be ready for that conversation to lead to this can't work.
That's so true. So also in the building, we do have Will 4K84. And hey, how you doing?
What up?
He did say, I feel your pain on not playing football. Don't get me started. But yes, we all had a choice.
How many kids? Will 4K? So, love versus lifestyle then.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have both? When is love worth the move? And when is it better to maintain your own lane?
I think so. Those are two different questions. I think both. There is a way for you to have love and for you to be able to have life, but kind of like what Kiara Carter said, you have to have that conversation. You have to explain the pros and cons of everything that's going on. So if the thing boils down to if we move right now, then these are the downfalls that we could have, and you have to outline them, go through that and be like, hey, I really do want to do this, but these are some of the downfalls. And if you two can together as a unit come to the decision that, okay, this will work, then go ahead and do it. But if you both can't agree on that, then you shouldn't do it because there could be levels of resentment. But don't just not do whatever you all were just talking about. Don't just not do the move. Offer solutions, suggestions, alternatives so that there can be an understanding that the relationship is still going to survive. And these are the steps that we're going to take to make sure the relationship still survives during this period of time where we may not be residing together.
Pause.
Paused.
Let's go back to you.
Okay.
I made a time in my life where I made a sacrifice for love, for the relationship. Have you ever made one? And if so, what was it?
I'm pretty selfish, so.
Yo. Y'all hear this?
I'm so
Come
kidding. I'm so kidding. I can't think of. There was never something like that I had to do. And I think it's because I was never really asked to.
What you mean?
I can't. I honestly can't think of a time where I had to do that or where I feel like my partner had to do that. Unless there's something that I told you that I'm honestly not relating with this that you would like to call out, and then we can totally discuss it.
I'm having a hard time accepting that to be true.
Oh.
At our age in life, we've made plenty of decisions. So you don't have any decision that you think was a sacrifice out of love before us?
I think because I don't view life in form of like regrets, like they were just choices that I made.
Ooh.
I did live with an ex before. We moved in together. He moved in with me at one point, and then we got our own separate place. And we lived together for about 3 months before our relationship ended. And we still had to keep our lease for the remaining 8 months of the lease. In hindsight, would I not in with him? No, I still would have done it. I still would have moved in with him.
How did y'all get past the lease? Did it end up getting broken?
No, our lease was an 11-month lease. So when it ended, we didn't renew it.
So y'all stayed together for the remaining 7 months that y'all had broken up? How did that work out? How do you come into a place with somebody that y'all not each other's favorite people at the moment and be able to be under the same roof?
He worked. He worked often, and we had a rotation. So it was a 1-bedroom apartment. One night he would sleep in the bed, I would sleep on the couch, and then we would rotate. And we did it like that until I had gotten into a car accident that jacked up my back, and he understood that I needed to be in the bed. And
you were injured, so you now needed the bed.
He made a sacrifice, but
see, I'm gonna insert gender wars here.
See, here you
All
go.
about the men making the sacrifices.
No, but he understood that I needed it because I was in severe pain with my back. That was at the time I think my third, yes, that was my third rear end collision, and I was older, and my back did not recover. It's still jacked up from that one car accident. My back and my neck are still jacked up from that one car accident.
You want to have a rear end collision later? You didn't see that coming.
This
You did not
guy,
see that coming.
this guy.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So to be honest, I asked you that question. I did the same thing when me and my ex-wife were coming out of our marriage. We still had about 8 to 9 months left on our lease, and I couldn't afford my own place. So we did live under the same roof for 8 to 9 months. And just like how you said,
Yeah.
I want to say though, for that entire time, I didn't sleep in the bed. I stayed on the couch the rest of the time. I don't
No,
think I slept in the bed once.
we rotated, and I will say when we moved in together, the bed was my bed. I brought the pay for the couch, but we made that decision right up to the car accident. Would rotate. The only thing that I had for him was I'm big on don't get in the bed dirty. So he did have to come in the house every day and take a shower before getting in the bed because I'm like, I'm not going to be changing the sheets every single night just because you don't come in the house and take a shower. So he did respect that and, did that. But yeah.
All right, I've got a question specifically for our military folk slash veterans. Constant moving is a part of life when you're in the service. You're moving about every 3 to 4 years. There's always a PCS, that's permanent change of station. But after service, would you still do it voluntarily for somebody? For those of y'all that might be in that category, let us know. It is one of the dynamics of things that people don't talk about because while Big Daddy government does make you move afterwards, any decision that you make after that, for the most part, it's a voluntary choice. Typically,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I ask this question is because if one person is military and the other one isn't, one of the things that most couples look forward to post service is that settling down and not always moving around. Now, this isn't everybody. There are some people that like to be wanderers and go to all the different places. Fantastic. That's kind of how I think we're gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see us settling down in a place for too long.
Yeah.
So for the military folks, once you're past service, would you still voluntarily move for your significant other? Put it down in the comment section and let us know. For the civilians, would you leave your career or community behind for a relationship that's worth it? Now, Michelle asked one of her friends
Yeah.
that specific question because that was what she did. And we asked this person for feedback. And Michelle, can you read to the people what that person said? And maybe give a little bit of a background so that the answer makes sense.
All right. So my friend had been living in a state that was different from her home state, right? So I'll say the states. My friend had been living in Maryland, originally from Pennsylvania, got into a relationship. The person that she got into a relationship with accepted a job in Virginia with the company that he's been employed with his entire life, right? So this was a great opportunity. And that meant that she would need to move from Maryland now down to Virginia. All of her friends were in Maryland. Her family was in Pennsylvania, and now she's moving to a third state. And I know some people are like, well, it's not that far apart, but it is. When you're moving and you have friends and relationships, that 1 hour time difference can change a lot of friendships. Take me on my word. I'm good for this. So she moved, and there were some initial things that went on, and let's hear the advice. I asked specifically, what advice would you offer when it comes to moving for someone that you love? The first piece of advice that she offered, and she offered four pieces of advice. The first piece of advice would be, as you all have stated, be clear on your boundaries and desires. You can't move and you both expect two different things. So that's piggybacking off of what both Kiera Carter said and what Paul Bennett said, because Paul said conversations before time is almost irrelevant. Everyone gets their time, gets the timeshare speech. Until you start living it, one must appreciate the present reality of their situation.
Ooh, bars.
I know, bars, right? Um, so that pulls into there. The second piece of advice that she offered was it can be hard to not resent your other half at times when struggles arise. Try to turn that feeling into an opportunity to grow as a couple. And I loved that. We both loved that when we read it, that if one person is having, the sunshine period of their life and the other person is going through endless clouds, it can seem hard to not resent the other person, but you do have to look at that as an opportunity to turn into each other, to continue to grow, to continue to find ways to find the better in the situation.
Let's stay there
Okay.
real quick. The key parts of that, the person that is going through things in sunshine and rainbow has to see that the other person is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you got to bend over backwards to that person's desires and needs, but you should come to them and you should ask them and you should, people want to say provide a safe space. I don't like that for certain reasons, but what it means, right,
Mm-hmm.
is have a platform to where the person that is feeling some type of way does feel safe and vulnerable to express what's going on and feel as though you can hear them. Just
He
smiling
loves
because
feeling.
she knows these words like, well, I feel like, yeah, that's how you feel like now, but when the dust anyway. So that is what's key, but I think it takes the person that is doing well and not feeling any type of way to be able to give that space to the other person so that they can find those opportunities. But what happens when it seems like it's taken forever?
I think that you have to have a level of grace. And again, I think this goes back to what Kiara Carter is saying. You have to have those conversations beforehand. That way you can iron that out. And another thing that I strongly recommend, I knew we were doing this topic and I knew someone who had lived through it. So I reached out to her, right? If you know someone who is going through something that you're about to go through, or you're a part of a community where this is something that's happening, and we're in 2025 where there is social media and there's always someone who's like closely related to what you're going through, reach out and get advice, right? One of the things that I wanted King and I to be able to do was I wanted us to be digital nomads. Like, I wanted us to not be bound to any one country and to just travel and live the rest of our happy lives.
And I was on board with it.
Totally on board, and I appreciate that you are. So one of the things that mattered to me was what content creators am I following. There's this one content creator on Instagram. Her name is Cara Celeste West, and I've been following her since she was a vegan food blogger. I followed her when she got married. I followed her when she moved overseas. I followed her when she had her kid. And now she, her husband, and their daughter, they are digital nomads. They are a nomad family. She is the breadwinner in the family. She works a remote job that allows her to be able to travel and live anywhere. And she posts her content all the time. And her husband, when they decided to make that move and leave the US and live outside of the US permanently, her husband quit their job. They did that even while they were in debt. I think they had about $27,000 in debt at the time, and they still made that decision, and they found a way to not only work through it, but to also make that into their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So she's someone that I follow. That's content that I engage with. She is someone who actually responds to my messages when I reach out and ask questions. Do that. Don't just sit here on an island feeling like you're the only one who's going through the situation. There's no one who can help you. There's no one who can advise you or point you in the right direction. Reach out for help so that you can get best advice. I'm so glad I reached out to my friend about this because although I wanted to get points to share with you all, she gave us points that can apply to this next season of my life with King or this next season of our life. So, with that, I want to continue with the last two pieces of advice that she gave.
Go ahead.
The last two things that she said, number three, be supportive of one another's struggles with the actual location change, which is easier said than done. Unless you move to a completely neutral territory where neither one of you know anyone going into it, it is naturally going to be an easier move for one person than it is for the other.
Typically, yep.
For us, King has been to all 50 states. He is also a retired Air Force. He's a retired Air Force vet. He can go into any one of these 50 states and make it home because he most likely knows someone who lives there.
That's true.
And if he doesn't know someone who lives there, will most likely be moving into a state that is moving into the part of a state that is close to a military base, and he will be united with family even if he's never met them before.
And just the type of person I am, I can make friends quick.
Right. King is very gregarious. I am more shy and reserved. King can go anywhere and make friends. So if we move anywhere in the United States, he's already going to have an advantage over me. It will be a harder move for me than it will be for him. We move to certain states, okay, I may know a person or two here, but for the most part, anywhere in these 50 states of America, I will face more difficulty than King will with the adjusting. If we move outside of the country, any country, and we move somewhere close to a military base. Anyway, we'll be on equal ground unless we move close to a military base. We move to Japan, we have, we'll still be on equal playing grounds, but it'll be because we both know people there. We move to Jamaica, I'll have more leverage because that's where my family is from. But either way, like there will be a place where there are very few places where we can move that one of us won't have an advantage over the other person. So we need to both be able to extend grace and understand that it's going to be an adjustment period for both of us as we're moving.
What's her final point?
Her final point was to build a life for yourself alone and together. Just because you now live together does not mean you can't have alone time and continue your own interests. So this person stated that she started feeling more secure when she made friends when they moved. But to me, that's just sage advice for any couple. And I love that. I loved every single piece of advice that she gave.
All right, so shout out to that person for the advice. And it wasn't just a generic 1, 2, 3. She gave some personal insights into that. So we appreciate that. That's what we try to offer too. Look, we're on these live streams. We do this stuff. I share what's happened and thoughts that I had in my life. Our tagline, which we didn't say for this one, is we attempt to offer a real outlook on a healthy relationship. Real being relatable,
entertaining,
accountable,
and loving.
And we try to embody that on every live stream. Now, I want to move forward a bit here. And we talked about the word sacrifice. And one of the things that seemed relevant in the conversation with Aisha Curry was how it seemed like she was losing her identity.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to somebody that feels like they're losing their identity and they start to resent their significant other because of making that move?
And I say this very respectfully. I say that at some point you were fine with losing your identity, and now for some reason it has changed. It has shifted. Here's what I know, and this is what I know from personal experience. When you get into let me not make it about everyone. Let me not generalize. Let me personalize. When I got into this relationship with King, I will say I didn't necessarily cancel plans with people, but I made more plans with King. I made more of an attempt to build the relationship that I had with King than I may have necessarily done to maintain relationships that I had with other people. That does not mean that I was deliberately out sabotaging other relationships, but that's to say that I made a priority to be with my man.
Oh.
Because, I love you, babe. But that's because I wanted to get to know him. I wanted to have a strong foundation with him because I knew the moment that I met him that I loved him and that we would be together forever. So I wanted to take the time to build the foundation, pour that concrete. If you've ever watched an episode of HGTV where they're making those homes, you have to start with a sturdy foundation. You have to make sure that you look out at how the land is going to lay, that you put in all those stills, that you pour the concrete, that the foundation is sturdy. And that is what I was trying to do. And I have no clue what he signed in because he doesn't know what he signed in. As you can see, he's sitting there thinking about it. But I wanted to make sure that we had a firm foundation in our relationship. So that meant that there were some events that other people were having where if King couldn't go, I didn't go. If King was unavailable that night, I may not have shown up, or I probably did, and I was probably like FaceTiming King the whole time or something like that. But I put a priority on my relationship with him. And now that we're about to move in together, one of the things that my therapist is saying to me, because I'm saying it to my therapist, is that I have to find out who Michelle is independent of King. So
100%.
1000%. I have learned how to find who Michelle is independent of all of my friend groups. I have to learn how to be Michelle independent of King. So when Michelle is not a teacher, when Michelle is not a minister, when Michelle is not a member of this particular sorority, when Michelle is not, whatever of the many hats that I wear, when I'm not that, and when King is not around, who am I? And that is something that is so true. You have to be able to find who you are independent of the person that you're in a relationship with. And I think you get to that point of resentment or you felt like you lost yourself because early on in the relationship, before y'all took that next phase, you never took time to identify who you were. And now here you are 20 years later, like I feel like I lost myself. And that is what my therapist does not want to have happen to me. He wants me to take the time now to fully identify who I am independent of you. That way, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I can say that I am Michelle and this is who Michelle is. Michelle is more than all of these other titles that she has. Michelle is more than just King's woman. Michelle is this person. And I think respectfully, Aisha did not spend the time doing that before she got married. And then she found fame through her spouse. And now she feels like she doesn't have her own identity. Well, that's true, my sister. You don't have your own identity because you didn't establish it early on. And that is said with all due respect, not knocking any woman, not knocking anyone who is a stay at home, whatever, whether it's stay at home wife or stay at home husband. That's not me knocking anyone. That's me simply saying we have to find our own identity outside of our spouse early on in the relationship, or else we're screwed later on.
I want to stay on this for a bit. There's a content creator who I follow who goes by Coach Greg Adams. And Coach Greg Adams, or CGA, talks about this thing that he says most relationships go through, and it's what's called the marriage wheel. And one point on the marriage wheel is this spot called the bait and switch. And how he annotates the bait and switch is that you're going to get someone that is going to give you what she thinks you want, and this is specifically women to men. The women are going to give the man what the man wants so that she could get what she wants in the end. She's going to bait you, reel you in, flood you with all the things, and then once you no longer serve her purpose or serve her, then that's when the switch happens. And now this person is one of your most worst enemies because now they're not happy. They feel like they've lost their self. They were the ones that told you, oh, I can't wait to be a mom, I can't wait to be a wife, I can't wait to be this, and then you give them that, and then 10 years later you hear, I'm not happy because I feel like I've lost my identity. And men are going, what are we supposed to do with that?
Right.
Like, if that's going to happen, if I'm looking here and it happened to Jerry, if I'm looking here and it happened to Tom, if I'm looking here and it happened to Rich, am I going to be the exception? And I think some men go out there, it's not going to happen to me. My girl's not like that.
Yeah.
Yep, my girl's the exception to the rule. I'm the exception to the rule. And they find out the hard way. And it's funny to me because I see it more often than not too, and that frightens me.
And I think that's where you really have to be honest with yourself. Who are you independent of this relationship? And that's the thing. And I think that's why you always talk about, not getting married at a young age. Most young people don't know who they are at that young age. I do see that Will 4K84 said to Cara, wish I had thought of this at the age of 19, shaking my head. But that's the truth. We're not thinking like that at 18, 19, 20 years old. And that's why I know you personally say that getting married at a young age is at the detriment to both people because you are so young and you don't really know what you don't know. You haven't experienced much. And to that, I just say, this is why you should take time to get to know yourself. I would always say that I have no issues going on a date with myself, right? I have no issue taking myself out. That was both a truth and a lie at the same time. Because there are three places that I am very comfortable taking myself out on a date to. I'm comfortable with taking myself out on a dinner date. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable with taking myself out on a movie date. And I'm comfortable with taking myself out on a date to go walk in the park.
I agree on all those things. But you do those things on the regular.
Right. I will backing and just go do it myself.
I'd be like, enjoy deuces. Let me know how it was.
But some things that I will never take myself on a date to go do, I wouldn't take myself on a date to go make pottery. I wouldn't take myself out on a date to go hiking. I wouldn't. First of all, I barely do that with you. I wouldn't take myself out on a date to go bowling. I wouldn't take myself out on a date to do most of the things that you typically see a couple doing together.
Why not?
I am not comfortable with myself in that way. And I'm not saying that every woman should, but you need to be comfortable with taking yourself out on a date.
Hold on, real quick. I have to change this. Why not? I continue.
Oh my gosh. So that's the thing. I think some women get so caught up in, some people get so caught up in their identity being wrapped up with the person that they're with that they forget that they still have to be an individual human by themselves.
We had one of the questions that were here. It goes, how do you rebuild your life and confidence after giving up your home base for someone who's no longer there? And I think we kind of
talked about it.
We hit on that throughout.
You have to have your own interests, right? If you are someone who, what would you say is something that I love to do without you?
Go out and like the walk near water stuff.
Oh yeah, give me a body of water. I will go out and walk, and I will find my peace, my happiness, and my joy there. If that's something that I love, then when we move, I need to do that. I need to still do that. I need to continue to find joy in the things that I found joy in before. I can't get caught up in, well, I'm not near XYZ anymore. I need to go do the things that brought me joy. Where you run into issues are when people move and they're like, well, being around my family brought me joy. Okay, honey, doing what with your family brought you joy? Was it just being with them? Then you need to go out and do some experiences and maybe just take your phone and FaceTime them, have a Google Meet with them, something where you're still able to converse with them, but you still have to learn how to live and breathe without reliance on anyone else.
Question for you.
What's up?
If I don't move for you, does that mean I love you less?
Yes. That's exactly what that means. You don't love me, King Slap.
Wow. And the Oscar goes to
Thank you.
Michelle Early.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, it doesn't mean that you don't love me less, but that's not to say that there probably wouldn't be a moment where I wonder about the stability of our relationship going forward.
Would you move for love if it meant walking away from your dream job to be with me? Dream job.
I don't think I'm the most appropriate person to answer that question.
You're not, because I know what your answer is. I know what you think.
Go ahead.
Your answer
what
is.
do you think I'm going to say?
You're going to say something like, King, my dream thing is to be in a relationship with you.
First of all, no.
Oh!
No.
Correct me.
No, I was just gonna say, call it a curse of ADHD. My dream job fades and like it changes. So I wouldn't say that I would give up what I know is true love and to be with the man that I love immensely for something that appears to be a dream job for me today.
Let a school offer me a head coaching position tomorrow.
But that's the difference between the two of us.
And it's in Texas. And it's in Florida.
You know what your dream job is. I do not. I love what I do. I absolutely do. I know what my calling is, but I don't have a dream job attached to that. I absolutely love teaching. I love the school where I am. This is my 6th year at that school. I love the population. I love the community. I love everything about what I do. I wake up in the morning and I have joy going to that place. But can I honestly 1000% say that it is my dream job? No, it's my calling. I'm walking in my calling. And I have love for that for as long as the Lord tells me that this is where I need to be fulfilling my calling.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you
Mm-hmm.
and the people. I make good money. If I were to go into a coaching position, chances are I'm losing money. With all of that being said, if it's not a whole lot,
Mm-hmm.
while I'm going to look at this camera and I'm going to look at you,
Mm-hmm.
while there would be a conversation, the conversation is me letting you know if it's my dream job, I'm taking it. And you got a choice to move with me or not.
But see, I can respect you for that because, like you said, you know what your dream job is. I know what my calling is. And that may not always align with a dream job.
Okay. Man, great topic.
Yes.
This was one that when we initially had it, I was like, I think that we can make this work. And being that our viewers, the people that watch us, are a mix of military, veteran, and folks over the age of 30, you would have likely experienced this already. Where we need to try to push this message down is to get those 18 to 29 that might be thinking about making a decision post college, post military career, whatever, and they're in a relationship and they're asking themselves this very question.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to get drafted and go into the pros. They're about to ETS, which is, I forget exactly what ETS stands for actually, but you're separated from active duty and you're going into that inactive ready reserve status and getting out, and you're looking at that next phase of life, or you're finishing your undergrad and grad school is 800 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
yet you're dating somebody that's a class behind you.
Mm-hmm.
What do?
I think, you know who I think of in that situation? Because I love watching football and I love watching football stories. And there was this national that was called Receiver, and it was talking about the wide receivers.
Yes.
And they specifically featured Amon-Ra St. Brown from
The Detroit Lions.
There we go. The Lions. And when he first got started and came in, I don't know if they were married now or what, but his fiance, he was obviously in Detroit with the Lions, and his fiance was still in California because she was in grad school, and that's where she was going to school. So they were having that long distance relationship. They understood the moment that he got drafted by the Lions that, hey, Detroit is over here, Illinois, Detroit is over here, Michigan's over here, and California is all the way over here. They're not near each other. They're not in the same time zone. We're gonna have to work it out. We're gonna have to make it work. And I appreciate the fact that they did and they showed how they were making it work. Sometimes you can't just, and it has nothing to do with your love for that person. Sometimes you can't. You have to make the decision that is right for you. So there is no one size fit all cookie cutter answer, but it does require conversations.
Okay, do we have any comments to address before we close out the show today?
We do not.
Okay, then I have a final question that we're not going to address, but I would love for people that see this clip or this live stream to put this one down in the comment section. Specifically for military spouses, I wanted to know this. What's the biggest sacrifice you've made for your significant other?
Ooh.
Put that down in the comment section. Show other people from your perspective what that looks like. Maybe your answer and your story can help somebody else. So I'm going to repeat it one more time. Military spouses, what's the biggest sacrifice you've made for your significant other?
Does that have to be just military spouses? Could that be anyone?
It could be anybody.
Yeah, anyone. What's the biggest sacrifice that you've ever made for your significant other? I can tell you what King's gonna say. I didn't check my fantasy football lineup before this show, and that was a big sacrifice.
Oh my goodness.
I told you. That's what he's gonna say. What was the biggest sacrifice? Well, there was that one episode where I didn't check my fantasy lineup before the show went live, and it was huge.
Life is life. It is what it is. Thank y'all for tuning in, y'all. This was different for us. We ran across internet issues and camera issues.
Oh my gosh.
So that affected our audio quality. Our audio quality is usually 100 times better than what it is now.
And our video quality too.
Our video quality is a lot better as well. So come back with us because we're live every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone at the King and Me Show on most platforms. Period Production over on Facebook, who has under 300,000 followers.
Just a little under.
Yeah,
Under.
I mean, it's a big page, you know what I'm saying? And WTF Nation Radio, who has a gang of followers as well. We're in partnership with them. And we can't announce it yet because
we still got to go through some paperwork.
Going through the paperwork, but we also have another partnership with somebody that reached out to us. And everything's looking good for that. So once things get launched with that, we are excited to announce another potential partnership.
It's coming.
So thank y'all for tuning in. I'm King.
I'm Michelle.
And we end our live stream every single time the same way for the last 3 years. So bring them lips. And let's go have that rear end collision.
Oh my gosh.
Bye, y'all. We still live. We still live.
We still alive. We still alive. Hey. What would you do for love? You tried everything, but you don't need love. Oh, wait, let me pull up the lyrics. I guess you wonder where I've been.
Boom, boom, boom.
I searched to find a love within.
Boom, 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 boom.
I came back to let you know.
Let him know.
Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Second verse. My friends wonder what is with me. Well, I'm in a daze for your love, you see. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you.
And what?
And I can't let go.
I'm like Kirk Franklin over here.
The people go around the world for love, but they may never find what they dream of. What you won't do for
You tried everything, but you don't